Thanks for dropping in. I'm Kizin Kwacha, editor of Mobile Magazine, and in today's podcast, reporter Matthew Campelli meets up with Rodric Yates of IBM to discuss the company's new mobile strategy. Let's hear what Rodric had to say.
I'm trying to get an idea of IBM's mobile strategy going into the new year. It seems like it's something that's fairly new to the company, but something that's going to be pushing quite a bit in the next 12 months. Right. So just a bit of background about what you guys have
done. Sure. It's not new at all, actually. Right. So it's maybe not as well joined up and publicised as it could be. So we've been working mobile for years and years. I mean, right the way through for device and telemetry protocols, all that kind of stuff, for 10 years, 12 years, I mean, a long time, so a lot of the kind of very low power, low bandwidth conversations between machine to machine, Internet of Things. We did a long time back. I guess quite often we hit a market about 5 years before it really starts, and then we sit there thinking, my goodness, where are we? So, I mean, the mobile strategy, I mean, it's kind of soup to nuts primarily. So, I mean, it depends where your entry point is. So, I mean, if you look across a company like IBM, there's a huge number of software products which are very capable in certain areas around analytics, around security, back-end communication, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got, for other clients that might want to embed a brand new mobile strategy into what they're trying to do. So it's a much, much larger conversation where it involves transformation, strategy and change. And then you've got other clients that might want to do something that's a lot more point. So you might have a point around, mobile analytics and understanding what customers are doing, understanding where your applications fall apart, in real time. So, where are people actually struggling to use my apps, all the way through to where you actually sort of manage security and manage back-end conversations. And then another area which we move into around where you might take an existing programming interface that is already part of your system of record and access, and needing to extend it to account for certain mobile protocols that are new when you've got very unreliable network capability, or you've got a situation where you've got massive peaks in a very non-standard way, where suddenly you get a flood. Jenny Jones, another Bristol girl, fantastic. She's gone from about 8,000 Twitter's followers to about 50, 60,000. Right? I mean, that's just an example where you might get, for some obtuse reason, a whacking great peak. Yeah. So we've got the app dev lifecycle. We brought something out called Mobile First, which gives you the whole sort of technology story, and also will add around the strategy around actually how you start taking a company into a mobile strategy, as opposed to doing, which we often see, is somebody like doing an adjunct. Yeah. So I've seen companies have a perfectly capable system of record and start talking about omni-channel, and then they replicate all their databases and replicate all that kind of stuff, which means you've got this maintenance nightmare, this pain, where you're basically saying, that's my mobile strategy and this is the rest of my company, and that's kind of not going to work. I don't know what your experience is, but in my experience that's just so disjointed it's painful. So I guess our strategy is transformation and change, the support and management and hosting of other applications, support mobile, all that kind of stuff, and then finally the actual products that you can build around sort of DevOps and the life cycle. So it's quite a large portfolio, and actually it's my job and our job since the beginning of the year to bring it all together into one kind of conversation. So we did release Mobile First last year, and that's a template or a framework around which we pretty much frame everything that we do within mobile. So we're very good at talking about it ourselves. What we've got to do is make sure everyone else knows about it as well.
I was going to ask you, one of the things is how you're packaging it. I spoke to Mike Bradbury about 6 months ago, who was talking about apps and security, and that would be sort of the bedrock of how you're going to build your mobile strategy. Is this a sort of an equivalent of, for example, a BlackBerry Enterprise service where they deal with security and apps as well? Or how are you packaging it to businesses, this sort of solution?
It depends who you're talking to in the business. I mean, that's just one of these crazy conversations. A lot of people lead in very quickly with a product, or they lead in very quickly with a capability. But actually, you can have that conversation with a company or a CIO or a chief security officer or something like that, who's pretty well down the line of understanding what it is they want. For a company or a customer that basically says, I want to increase my mobile sales in retail, whatever it might be, and they're entering at that point without necessarily understanding the full underlying infrastructure, that's a different conversation. That's a very different conversation. So I think a lot of it is about entry points. So, for example, if you're talking to a CIO about the entry point, you're more concerned about agile development and rapid deployment of applications. Meanwhile, you continue maintaining your more mature systems of record. So there's a security conversation. How do you support bring your own devices? How you do business to employee deployment, that kind of stuff. Who's going to Chief Marketing Officer, more reliant upon personalising the experience. So that's another different level of conversation. So, in that kind of conversation, you wouldn't be talking about the product that we sort of nosedive into every time anyone talks about mobile. So it really depends where you're coming in from. I mean, there's loads of entry points. I've been here about 3 weeks. I think my experience so far is quite often you're talking mobile at 50,000 feet. And then often you go, and you're down in Xtify, or you're down in Fiberlink, or you're down in Worklight. And so my job, I think, is just to go, come back up here, come back up. Let's start having a conversation that involves trying to figure out what people want to do. And I had a conversation with they call the new client acquisition team within IBM, but basically to say, the best thing you can do in these conversations is to shut up and listen, actually, and stop telling people that you know the answer before they've told you what the problem is. And mobile's a good one for this, because everyone knows the answer. Everyone's got a little device, and everybody's got the experience of using something or other. I think people just need to sort of listen and try and understand what it is people are trying to achieve most of the time. It's quite good in my position because I don't need to nosedive into software or nosedive into security or nosedive into strategy and transformation. I can kind of look at the whole thing as a big parcel. I mean, you get some very complex clients who are they've got about 23 operating divisions, and you can say, well, is there a single mobile strategy for that client? There probably is at a very, very high level, but actually each one of those individual areas quite often wants to go in their own little focus. And one might want to focus specifically on how you maintain security and reliability. One might say, okay, well actually I want to go in and I want to try and understand how I can, maybe it's an automobile or a car manufacturer. If I know that cars are going to disappear off the planet in 30 years' time, hypothetically speaking, what's my product? How can I start using some of this telemetry, some of this machine-to-machine, of which a car is a machine that also transmits and receives mobile data? What's my product going to be in 30 years? So you get all these different conversations all taking place at different times. But like I said, just people sit back and shut up and listen. I think is my gamut.
Sure.
Yeah.